You ever read something someone wrote like 800 years ago and realize that humans haven't fundamentally changed that much since ancient times? Never have I felt this more than when I read a bunch of cat-inspired poems by Lu You, a poet from the Song dynasty. Lu You is typically known in China for his patriotic poems, because when he was a year old, the infamous humiliation of Jin Kang happened, in which the army of the Jin dynasty, established by the nomadic Jurchen people, broke into the capital of the Song dynasty, which was the native Han Chinese regime, and captured the Song emperor and the emperor's dad, who had emergency abdicated because he was terrified of exactly this scenario. Guess he didn't get out fast enough. He was a great artist though, but terrible emperor. Anyway, the remainders of the Song dynasty then had to flee south and became known as the Southern Song dynasty, losing the northern half of China to the Jing. Because of this, Lu You grew up dreaming of getting vengeance against the Jing and reclaiming the lost territories of his homeland. Unfortunately, the Song court didn't have the same ambitions. They were corrupt and lethargic, basically fine with holding up in the south and forgetting that they ever held the north. Lu You tried to change this by going through the imperial examinations and becoming an official, but the others in the court got tired of listening to him yell about vengeance and retaking the north, so he was dismissed again and again, despite his literary talents, and he spent his life writing a lot of poetry instead, like more than 11,000 poems in total. Many of them were about his frustrations at political corruption, but he also wrote about basically everything. Poems were the ancient Chinese scholar form of live blogging, and Lu You's live blogging happened to document his descent into total cat obsession. Let me set the scene. The year is 1183. 58-year-old disgruntled scholar Lu You has had enough of these rats in his study munching up his prized collection of books, so he decides to get a cat. In those times, getting a cat from someone was almost like getting a concubine. You had to offer a bridal price in exchange, so Lu You traded a bag of salt for a kitty. And then he wrote a poem about it.
Poem for my cat 1. I traded a bag of salt for a little kitty to protect the countless books in my mountain study. It's a shame my family is poor and my prestige is low, so it has no rug to sleep on in the cold and no fish to eat.
What are the results of this adoption? Great! Amazing! Not only does the kitty take care of the rat problem within days, Lu You now has some company in the house while everyone else in his family, by which he probably means his sons, are out in the army fighting the Jing dynasty.
Rats kept ruining my books, so I got a cat, and within days, the rats were vanquished. Conscription having left my house empty, I light incense by myself. Only my cat keeps me company in my meditation chamber. Sleeping by day, we stretch out together on a warm bed. Sitting up at night, we both listen to the water clock's long streaks. So brave and capable that he has ousted the rat's nest, as valiant as the soldiers slaying enemies on the battlefield. I cannot give it much fish to eat, but it does not mind, nor does it waste time catching butterflies among the flowers.
Having a cat clearly becomes a fixture in Lu You's life, because years later, he writes about getting another cat and naming it Snowy. So it probably had white fur?
I got a cat from a nearby village that I'm naming Snowy. It's like a tiger climbing trees. It's like a horse, though it won't pull carts. All it does is vanquishing the rat's nest with no mind for fish as meals. Every so often, it gets drunk off catnip. Every night, it warms my rug. It must have been my servant boy in a past life, reincarnated here to keep me company in my old age.
Aww. But what's really interesting is that this poem suggests that way back in the Song dynasty, people already knew about catnip. I do know that Song dynasty markets would sell dedicated cat food, which was like little fish and eels. Maybe they sold catnip too? If you think this is cute, I gotta tell you about Bokksu, my new favorite thing. Bokksu is the sponsor of this video, and they are a premium Japanese snack box subscription that delivers a differently themed selection of Japanese snacks and tea pairings to you every month. I know I'm Chinese, not Japanese, but well, I wouldn't need a subscription box to introduce me to Japanese snacks if I were Japanese. Bokksu is super cool because they partner with authentic Japanese snack makers who have been in the business for over 100 years. These boxes come straight from Japan and shipping is free if you're in the United States. They sent mine to me in this special holiday edition wooden box. Like, oh my god, look how fancy this is. These were handcrafted by a maker named Masuda Kiribako in Kogan, Japan. There's still time to get this as an awesome holiday gift for anyone in your life who appreciates Japanese snacks and culture, especially when none of us can travel as easily as we like right now. Like, I was supposed to go to Japan in 2020 and that got delayed. But I got to taste a little piece of Japan through Bokksu, which is really just a whole box of snacks that I've never had before, and the flavors are mind-blowing. Like, oh my god. Look at this, it's like tempura in a bag. And then this is pear fromage biscuit. Like, what? You want one, Timujin? Oh my god. You want one? No. These are definitely snacks to share while your cats are watching you. Don't actually give these to your cats. You can use my code SHIRAN10 and the link in the description to get 10% off your own authentic Japanese snack subscription from Bokksu. Like, come on, it is straight up like taking a delicious snack journey through Japan. Anyway, back to cat poems. The next one takes place after Luyo has gotten a third cat, Pink Nose. But with Pink Nose, dynamics seem to be changing in his household. His cats have fish to eat now, which is great, but they seem to be slacking off on their mouse eradicating duties.
Poem for Pink Nose. Night after night, you used to massacre rats, guarding the grain store so ferociously. So why do you now act like you live within palace walls, eating fish every day, and sleeping on my supple cushions?
This development does not dampen Luyo's enthusiasm for cats, though. Years later, he gets a fourth cat, which he names Little Tiger. So I'm thinking that it might be a tabby?
Poem for my cat, 2. I traded a bag of salt for a cat. I constantly watch it playing by my chair. Ever so often, it gets drunk off catnip. Every night, it hogs my rug. Though since it has ousted a nest of mice, how could I not give it a feast of fish? I should give it a name now. I'll call it Little Tiger.
Yet, Luyo seems to be losing his overall control of the household. His cats are no longer doing their jobs.
Poem for my cat, 3. When you fail to catch mice, I never reprimand you. I still serve you meals of fish on time. Every day I see you sleeping without worry. So for what reason do you keep rushing here and there?
Finally, one day it hits Luyo. What has happened? He has made a terrible mistake, spoiling his cats so much. They no longer have any incentive to work hard.
Some thoughts. My cat is sleeping in my blankets as if it doesn't hear how the rats are rampaging, ruining the books on my shelves, damaging even this poem. Now magpies dare to come down from the roof, their chirps clamoring before dawn. It was all a ruse to get food. Could it not have asked a passerby? When it's lazy, it gets to be warm and safe. When it's hungry, it gets to be full and docile. Your plan was so clever that my frustrations are difficult to explain.
This is his life now. A life full of rats and birds his cats refuse to kill. But does this mean Luyo hates his cats now? No, he grows to accept his fate, and he cuddles them on stormy nights like the full-fledged cat slave he is.
A rainstorm on the 4th day of 11th month, 1. Wind sweeps the waterways, and rain darkens the village. Rumbles roll up the mountains like ocean waves churning. The kindling from the creek makes a soothing fire, and my rug is warm. Me and my cat are not leaving the house.
Even when he's having a midnight drink, he's not lonely, as long as he has a chunky cat by his side.
Drinking alone at night. It's been a long time since I've had a drink of Mr. Malt. Now I enjoy its company happily. Rather than counting pints and bushels, I'll just measure by basins. Listening to the rain, I put on robes as rugged as a monk's. Lighting a lantern, I crouch next to a hearth. Feelings of loneliness do not arise in me when I have my fat cat as my brother monk.
And so that is how Luyo live-blogged his descent into cat fatherhood 800 years ago. Clearly, the relationship between us and cats have not changed that much since then. And no, it's not just Luyo who's on record for being a cat lover. For example, there's this other cat poem by the poet Liu Zhongwing, who was actually on the other side of the war in the Jing Dynasty. It's called Not Going Outside, and it reads, I have run out of good poems to read on my woven mat. With a bronze jug, I add some fuel to my hearth. The weather is slightly cold, so I have no wish to go out. I shall simply share a blanket with my cat. So, wow. These two old men were on opposite sides of a war, living the same cat-dad life. It's actually kind of sad, but then that is the nature of war. Anyway, special thanks to Tom Mazanek, Isendale, Semi Okita, and Jeffrey Kultik for correcting my initially kind of wonky translations of the poems. If you see my thread of these poems on Twitter and notice some differences, these are the much more accurate translations. And thanks so much to Accented Cinema for guest starring in this video as the voice of Luyo. Also, shoutouts to my Patreon Guardian Lions, Benji Sudokin, Cooper Malamute, Curious Madcat, Darian, Do It Out of Spite, Eduardo Aguirre, Aaron, Jacob Person, Jason Neblar, Jose Balesquez, Kakuga, Kites Universe, Ling Yu, Molly McAllister, Nick Health, Robin Carthus Darmagzine, and Tra TM. Damn it, Coco Chin, why you like this? Why are you like this? Why must you harass me if I don't lock you out of the room when I'm recording? Why must you harass me?